Hi everyone, good morning and good evening in India. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so welcome Dr. Manisha to our online platform at bioXspace. And I hope we're going to have a good session today. We all look forward to it, learning a lot from your experiences. Dr. Manisha is an aspiring academic and is currently a postdoctoral researcher in the Therapeutic and Technology Design and Development Lab at the Institute of Medical Engineering and Sciences, MIT. She is a biomedical engineer by training and has obtained her Ph.D. in material science and engineering from NTU, Singapore, under the supervision of Prof. Steele. During her Ph.D., she exploited the chemistry of stimuli-sensitive adhesives to develop voltage curable bio-adhesives. Her research interests stem from the excitement of applying her technical knowledge to practical medical devices that benefit society. Her current research focuses on using materials and mechanics technology to build anatomically accurate benchtop models to understand and study the cardiac pathophysiology and develop patient-specific solutions and two other parameters. With this being said, and her research, Dr. Manisha aims to democratize affordable patient-specific healthcare treatment to the masses and population. With this, we welcome you to bioXspace and we look forward to today's session. So we're going to dive right into it with the first question. How did you plan the steps in your career to get the career that you wanted?
Okay, thank you, bioXspace, for having me. It's really wonderful to have the session going and running. To just dive into the first question. Quite early during my undergrad studies, I realized that I wanted to become an assistant professor at a university. After doing some research on it, I quickly realized that a career path for an academic professor is quite defined. You need to earn a PhD in the field of your interest. I spoke to some of the professors in my school and noticed that all of them had at least a PhD. So, that was my goal going forward. So I would ask all the young students listening today that if you're fascinated towards a career path, do not hesitate in reaching out to the experts in your field. In my experience so far, people are always enthusiastic about sharing their journey. You can reach out and you'll be surprised to know that many of them will reply.
That's great to know. So, before going on further, I'd like to know what was your educational path like from your bachelor's and what drove you to go towards a PhD and how did you decide that a PhD is a correct choice for you?
So as I said, I think more difficult decision for me was to choose a field than to choose if I wanted to do a PhD or not. As I said, when during some stepping stones during undergrad in my career, I realized that I wanted to become a professor. But in what field? How did I choose biomedical engineering was more difficult a choice than choosing to be a professor. I actually wanted to be a computer scientist and computer engineer, but a few things going here and there did not work out. And then my family has a lot of doctors. Then they introduced me to this field called biomedical engineering, and then I realized after doing some research on it that biomedical engineers actually have it all. They are mechanical engineers, they are electronics engineers, they are electrical engineers, they are computer scientists, they are biomaterial scientists, and all of that. So I was like, yes, I can do that. And then there was. So I heard about biomedical engineering when I was about to take an admission in it. So in an Indian college. But then there was the first decision that I had to make, and it has been really amazing so far. Becoming a professor was, I think, sort of inherent. During undergrad, I realized that how important it is to make an influence on someone else's life, to be able to responsible to direct someone else's career, someone else's ambitions. It felt great. And then I was like, I wanted to be one of those who could teach, train new engineers, who could also educate society while also contributing to some of the cutting edge technology. And then academia, it gives you all that platform, right? then I decided to be a biomedical professor, which allowed me to do everything that I wanted to do.
Well, that's great to know. So moving on forward to our next question, I just wanted to ask that what were kind of the challenges you faced during your PhD and your steps afterwards, and how did you address them going on forward?
I think first, the earliest challenge for me was more on the side of convincing my family to let me go for higher studies. I'm from Haryana, and as you know, Haryana is quite, it has a difficult sex ratio, gender imbalance. It's quite unknown for like not good reasons. Yeah. So my challenges were more on the side of convincing my parents and my family to let me go for higher studies. But in the end, it worked out well because my performance in class was good. That convinced how Indian parents are convinced, so that convinced them. But once I was able to persuade them, they supported my education. And then I became the first in my family to attend engineering college and the first to earn a PhD.
That's quite, inspiring for all the women in STEM. And coming from Delhi, so I know what Haryana girls and girls from a patriarchal family go through. So that's really inspiring to know. So I guess Mikaila will be going on forward with the next question.
Oh, that's really great. And congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Can you give us any guidelines on any short-term internships or trainings which helped you to make your education decisions or which improve your career as to where you are right now?
Sure. I remember the first scholarship that I got during my undergrad. It was an INA fellowship. INA is the Indian National Academy of Engineers, which allowed me to do an internship at IMES in Delhi. There I met Promit Biswas, my first mentor, and Professor Snehanand, who was leading the Center of Biomedical Engineering at AIMS at the time. So I made good contacts with them. Later, they mentored me throughout my undergrad journey as a biomedical engineer. Working at AIMS also gave me hands-on experience of a clinical environment. There, I could interact with patients, which motivated me to build medical devices for a better healthcare. Also helped me in deciding why did I want to become a biomedical engineer.
That's really good. And I'm glad that you got that experience. Anyone listening to this can also apply for the same fellowship.
Yeah, I was looking into it actually yesterday. And then I think INA has way more fellowships now than it used to have 10 years back. And there are special fellowships for women engineers as well. There are like awards and recognitions. So I think it's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Okay, that's great to know. So, I wanted to know that, you explained to us that why you got into biomedical engineering, but why particularly did you go for material sciences and why at NTU? Was there a driving force for you to go to NTU, or did you apply to a lot of schools and you thought that NTU was the best? So what got in your decision to choosing NTU as your PhD place?
So I did not choose to specialize in material science and engineering. That's something that came to me. But I wanted to stay in the realm of biomedical engineering. And as I said before, biomedical engineers are one of the very fortunate academic people who could have it all. They could be anyone they wanted to be, a computer scientist, an electronic scientist, a mechanical engineer, or a material scientist. So so a specialized branch of biomedical engineering, which is biomaterials, allowed me an opportunity to build soft devices that could be implanted in human body and improve some patient health. I had 2 more PhD offers from different universities, but then I liked this project better, so I got that opportunity at NTU, and then I took it.
So I'm sure life at NTU must have been very different from that of India. And
it was, yeah.
Because the countries are different, people are different, everything, lab life. What is a typical day at work for you? Maybe Singapore or MIT?
Yeah. Every day is honestly different. When you are in research, research is highly unpredictable. You have good bad science days and bad science days. But to sum up, I try to keep a morning routine once I reach the lab, which is to update myself on the new literature, because we work at the edge of science and technology, right? There are new developments every day, so it's important to keep up with it. So on a typical day, my work involves reading papers, writing, performing experiments, meeting other scientists, brainstorming, coming up with new ideas, and supervising junior students. During PhD, I supervised undergrad students. Now I supervise a team of undergrad and grad students, which is actually very fulfilling. And in lab, my lab work mostly involves 3D printing, building flow loops, material testing, animal studies, etc., etc.
So if I may just ask, you added that in your morning schedule you update on research literature, up to date. Is there any specific website or method that you use as a, go-to in the morning?
So Google Scholar is your friend. I sign up for all the you can sign up there with all the keywords that you are fascinated towards, and then Google Scholar updates you, sends you these direct emails, any new research that has been published on it. So I just go through my Gmail and then mark papers that I like and I'm interested in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so going on further, I'd like to know, since you are pursuing a postdoc at MIT right now, how will it help you reaching your future goals or professional goals? Since you said you want to go for an academic life, so, I want to understand how a postdoc is going to help you further your career.
I think as a postdoc, the first thing would be that the projects that I'm working on developing medical devices and technologies that can someday be adopted by doctors to improve patients' health and outcomes. That's been my passion so far, and then my postdoc is allowing me to do that. Alongside this is I'm also mentoring a group of undergrad and grad students, as I said before, on their research projects. It's very fulfilling to see your trainees take on a path they are passionate about. And as I said before, I was able to pursue my dreams, but I saw many of the children I grew up with could not in India or in Haryana. So it's very important for me to do that for my current trainees and my future students, so they can pursue their dreams too. So this postdoc is actually training me for my future leadership roles.
Well, that's great to know. And I'm really happy that you can further your goal as well by training new undergrads and inspiring so many people around you. So, that's really inspiring to hear as a woman in science and coming from a patriarchal family myself. So, yeah, it can happen.
Of course, feel free to reach out if you need any help or any suggestions.
Definitely, yeah.
What do you value the most about MIT right now? Where you are at? What is significant about it, or what is special about it to you?
I think what I value the most are the networking opportunities that I have here, and the experience of working with the top scientific leaders in your field, and the doors such places open for you. It's amazing, honestly. I love it here.
You mentioned something about networking. So how would you advise young scientists to go out and network with their supervisors or get mentors in their specific field?
So supervisors are someone you already know of, right? So it wouldn't be too difficult. You meet them on a regular basis. So but people who are like other people who are working in the same field as you, you go if they are presenting a talk. There are sessions. There are like lots of sessions happening in MIT. So you just go and like listen to their talk, read about their work a little bit in advance, so you have something to talk about. I always start with like how much how much I admire their work, and it actually makes people really feel really good, because the world is so big. There's so many people doing different kind of good quality research, and someone's just coming up to you and then telling you that they admire you. It just opens up a room for conversation, right? So I do a little bit of homework, reading about them, knowing them more. So I know what to talk to them about. And as I said before, people are generally very helpful. If they are running on a short schedule, you can ask them to meet later or book an appointment or stuff like that. But generally, I just approach them. I do some homework.
Being a networker myself, I do network a lot on LinkedIn. So, that's a great tip to know. So that to admire people's stuff in their messages, and when you talk, and then they can open a room for conversation. So thank you for that tip. I'll definitely use it further. So going on to my next question, I wanted to ask, what do you consider your strengths and your weaknesses, and that have helped you to become a scientist and a better researcher?
I think strength would be maybe perseverance, transparent communication, taking chances is very important in research, and working under pressure would be some of the strengths that were important to me as a scientist and researcher. Some of the weaknesses would be, I think, as I said, first would be, the ability, learning how to deal with failure, right? So dealing with failure is something, as I said, research is highly unpredictable. You have good and bad science days. On a bad day, it's important to realize that failure is not a negative, but an important part of the research. So I was fortunate enough to have mentors like Terry and Ellen, who were my PhD and postdoc supervisors. They helped me navigate through it. And I think another weaknesses would be, we went coming from a university and then just directly jumping into a PhD and research, dealing with stress, because research is suddenly a lot of stress, and then you have courses to take, you have your project to work on, then you have students to mentor. So dealing with stress was another one. But it was important for me to make a conscious effort of keeping a good work-life balance. So I participated in activities outside the lab a lot. For example, I took regular breaks from lab and traveled with my friends to nearby countries like Thailand, Indonesia, from Singapore, which helps a lot, honestly. But everyone needs to find their own channel of breaking out from stress.
Okay, just one question. What advice would you give to a student who is considering going for their master's or PhD and are confused whether or not that PhD is a good path for them? Any advice you can give to those students?
I think the best would be just to be honest with yourself. Know that why do you need to do a PhD if you are deciding to go for a PhD? Is this something you're going to love? Because you would have lots of roadblocks around there. You would have some good days as well, which are like those small happiness that comes along your way. But I think the most important would be that you have to love what you do in the lab. Otherwise, it gets difficult to go through with it. So coming back to, you have to be honest with yourself. Why do you need to do a PhD? Are you doing a PhD just so you want a PhD? Is not a good enough goal to be doing a PhD, right? For example, as I said, I wanted to become a professor. So my path was straightforward. I had to do a PhD. The only decision that I had to make is what field would be more bearable for me, right? What would be what I would be passionate about. So it's one important question that I feel that you need to ask.
Okay, that's great to know.
We have one last question for you. We save the best for the last. So can you share what has been your best moment as a scientist so far?
Yeah, I know this.
And not submitting your thesis, that doesn't count.
No, it's not that. This has to be the first day of the animal study I went to. So part of my research involves testing the devices that we engineer, that we make in the lab on animals. We use pig as our model. So I've been fortunate enough to work with a team of doctors that help us implant those devices into pigs and test their function. So the best moment was the first time when I was in an OR, the operating room. When we started the animal study, I knew the engineering side of it quite well, but the only biology that I knew was from textbooks. So the first animal study was when I got my first anatomy lesson, was when I first touched a beating heart with my hands. It was magical, honestly. Heart is a fascinating organ, and I'm amazed more every day the more I learn about it.
That must have been really amazing. From the way you say it and your face, I can understand that it was magical.
Yeah, it was definitely. I'm amazed. Biology is something that I think it's so mysterious. It works in its own ways. Every week or month, whenever we have these animal studies, the day-long studies, I'm always excited about them. You learn so much. You don't know what's coming in your day, but you still go on.
Well, I mean, thank you for giving us such insights in your career and your psyche. So, I mean, before we close this session, the session is open for our spectators. And I mean, if you guys have any questions, you can ask ma'am.
Yes, I say you don't have to call me ma'am. You can call me by first.
It's a natural habit. I mean, since we are taught in India, so it goes away.
It took me a while from India to Singapore and the US, but you get used to it.
I just finished my bachelor's, so I'm on my way to eradicate it. But
congratulations.
Yeah. So, guys, the session is open for Q&A. If you guys have any questions you want to ask, if you're not comfortable with switching on your mics, you can type in the questions. So I think our interview covered all their questions they wanted to ask, and we don't have any further questions. So on behalf of bioXspace, we would like to thank you for giving us your time and this wonderful session and giving us an insight into your life and inspiring us to move on forward with our career in sciences. Thank you very much for giving us this time, and we hope to have you further in our future sessions as well for more insights.
Definitely, and thanks for having me. It was great. Like as I said, I hope I could inspire even a person in my life. That would be a dream come true. And feel free to reach out if you're not even related to bioXspace. If you have any other questions regarding your careers, regarding decisions, you have my email, you have my phone number. Feel free to reach out, and then I would be happy to help.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manisha.
Thank you. Yeah, bye. It was nice seeing you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.